what did you find about what the potential effects of the new immigration policies are on farm labor?
Well, as you had said, David, we've already seen increases in farm worker wages that have outstripped the general population. This is because of a tighter attitude on immigration that you actually saw during the Obama administration, which was stepping up deportations. Now, with Donald Trump's proposals, of course, we don't know the shape yet, but if it does sound like the even faster pace of deportation than we've already seen, which seems pretty likely, you could see farm worker wages go up even faster relative to the general population, or even relative to what they would have been under a status quo immigration policy. There was a U.S. Department of Agriculture study that was done in 2012 that hypothetically looked at what would happen if half of the undocumented workforce in the U.S. total disappeared. Agriculture is one of the most undocumented worker-dependent industries in the United States, and they found that within that industry you would see a 40% jump, larger than the relative of what would have happened status quo over a 15-year period than what you would have seen otherwise. That, of course, translates not only into higher price for fruits, vegetables, or milk, it also means that a lot of agricultural competition would go overseas and the U.S. would be more reliant on imported food.
Yeah, and just to underscore your point about how much the farm worker population particularly is affected by this, I learned from your report that roughly a quarter of the entire farm workforce has no valid immigration papers. So it's a very substantial portion.
And that, David, is actually a lowball estimate. You'll see labor unions estimate up to 70% of the farm worker population, and it's important to understand where it's concentrated. You know, a lot of American agriculture is mechanized, so corn, wheat, soybeans, one person with a combine can till thousands of acres themselves. But in agricultural parts of the country like California, Florida, where you have fresh fruits and vegetables, there you are very much reliant on immigrant labor, and those are the sectors that would be hit hardest by any sort of an immigration plan that would lead to larger scales of deportations.
Now, if the Trump White House really wanted to fix that problem, isn't there a way to do it without backing off its order? And that is by increasing the number of permits for guest workers coming into the country. That's what, like Germany has done that over the years.
Well, and there is a program, it's the H-2A farm worker visa that allows people from foreign countries to come in for 6 months legally to work in agriculture. And what you've seen is that program has just skyrocketed in popularity over the last decade as illegal immigration has been cracked down upon. That question has, though, some problems as far as using the H-2A program as the mechanism, because you're seeing a lot of bureaucratic delays because of staffing. You're seeing some rules that farmers don't like in terms of some of the requirements for the program. And it's important to note, David, that even if you had more people under the H-2A, because you have a constricted workforce, all the H-2A wages are paid basically a prevailing wage rate for the worker population. So any sort of inflationary effect that you would have from the decline of undocumented workers would go into the documented worker population as well, which does not necessarily lead to that wage inflation slowing at all.
Well, fair enough, but I can hear someone from the Trump administration saying, number one, why should we be relying on that many undocumented people for this industry? And number two, getting wages up is what we said we wanted to do.
Well, absolutely. And in that sense, you can have the desired policy outcome if you make the fixes to the H-2A program and make sure that you have the legal workforce. If you simply deport, say, half of the farm worker population and don't have anything in place to sort of take up that slack, you are talking about higher food prices. You are talking about U.S. food production going overseas. That, in the end, leads to fewer jobs in the U.S. because you have, of course, all those upstream agriculture-dependent industries, including manufacturing, that would be affected by a smaller agricultural workforce.